Welcome back. This is an Aleks homework video on predicting acid or base strength from the conjugate. All right, they're going to give you a list, and they're going to give half of them with a number, and then the other half will be those missing numbers. So there's 8 on this list, and I have 1, 6, 7, and 8 done. The other ones will be the missing numbers, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, so at least you know where to start. Also, you have to realize that half of these are going to be the conjugates of the other half. So the ones that you have, if it's an acid, you're going to have a conjugate base on this list. If you have a base, you're going to have the conjugate acid on the list. So if you remember, the conjugate acid of a base has a hydrogen in it, and the conjugate base of an acid has one less hydrogen in it. So I simply just put them in a list. And I see here that H3O, that's hydronium. Hydronium is what pH is. So that is as acid as it gets. It's a strong acid. And it has the lowest of the pHs. Remember, the pH is low when you have acids and high when you have alkaline or bases. All right, so if we know that hydronium is a strong acid, and there is a list of the strong acids and the strong bases that you should know, and there are no other strong acids or bases on this list. That means the conjugate acid here, water, since one is a strong acid, then the conjugate base must be a very weak base. Now by weak, I don't mean towards 14, I mean towards 7. So we want the number that is closest to 7, water is 7, closest to that middle number, and so we want it to be in the middle. So it can't be bases. It can't be 6, which is a base, or 7, which is a base, or 8, which is a base. So it must be 5. So that is the first thing I'm going to look at, is that this has to be a 5. All right, so now I have 2, 3, and 4 left, and I've got 6, 7, and 8. All right, so now we have weak bases here. 6 is a weak base, 7 is a weak base, 8 is a weak base. If you have a weak base, the conjugate acid is a weak acid, and it's going to be weak in the same order. So if, for instance, number 8 is my strongest acid, all right, if that's my strongest acid, then HF, hydrogen fluoride, will be my weakest base. So it has to be closest to 7 on the pH scale. So, if water is 5, it needs to be a little bit of a weaker acid than that. Okay, because it needs to be slightly acidic, not very acidic. So this number 8 is then going to be 4. That has to be 4. Now the other 2 is 2 and 3, and it's going to be in that same list. 7 is now stronger, so or weaker. It's a weaker weak base, and that means that I have to have a stronger weak acid. And then the last one is weaker still, and so it is going to be even stronger. Okay, so this is going to be then what you're going to fill out. The water is going to be a 5. The HClO2 is going to be a 3. The HF has to be a 4. And the H2C2O4 needs to be a 2. So you're basically remembering that if you have a strong acid, then you're going to have a weak base. If you're going to have a weak acid, you're going to have a weak base. And the weaker the acid, the stronger the weak base. The weaker the base, the stronger the conjugate is. So they're opposite of each other. So the first thing I would do is put them in a list like this, and then put them in order of which one's stronger. Well, then the other one has to be weaker. Which one's weaker? The other one has to be stronger relative to each other. So I can see that this would be very confusing, and I hope that you do well on this.